This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masteringencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle, and make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey gang, Larry Bailey here, bringing you another weekly community meeting. We are going to talk about leveraging the secrets of Encompass native functionality. We're going to get together and talk because I'd love to hear from you guys on just what you think about Encompass native functionality versus third-party technology. As always, we get together here as a community. You can meet us up here at Mortgage.Community. If you don't have an account, guess what? It's free to join. Anybody can join and come to these meetings every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and we get together. You're always welcome to come up on stage. I'm usually the only one that talks, quite honestly, which is totally fine. You guys hang out on the chat, which is what everybody really likes to do. Hello, Jill. Jill wins prize first time today. There's a running game, in case you didn't know that, who can be the first on the chat. So Jill won this week. Congratulations, Jill. In the meantime, we've got some topics to discuss. Obviously, in case you didn't notice, we finally got Encompass Desktop 24.2 delivered to our testing environments. If you haven't seen my first reaction video, I think it might have dropped. If it doesn't drop yet, it's coming soon. You can hear on my vibe on everything. I kind of go through the checklist of things that you should be doing also as an admin against what actually got delivered with 24.2. And then I also jump over to the web. A little disappointed. I'm sure there's a plan there, but if you tried to get over to Encompass web with 24.2 in testing environment and you're looking for all that stuff, yeah, it's not there yet. I don't know what the plan is. Haven't heard back from anybody over at ICE. Maybe somebody here on the community heard. Maybe you guys got an email that I didn't get. That's entirely possible and not unusual. So that's today's agenda. For those that are just rolling in, again, we're talking all about leveraging the secrets of Encompass native functionality. The title got cut off. Sorry about that. But basically, the premise here is a lot of folks since 2011, 12-ish, right? So some of the OGs that are out there that were really developing tech as an organization, places like Matchbox, even Mortgage Tech, I think they're still doing business. They started off the momentum, and then companies like Lender Toolkit and Kenzie May and Ignite and Awesome Technologies Inc. and blah, 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 blah. Everybody kind of rolled in with all the third-party tech you could eat. And that third-party tech, of course, gets baked into your workflow, and it becomes problematic, quite honestly. It becomes significantly problematic if you try to pivot. And so Angie asks, does Encompass have native HMDA functions? And the answer to the question that I think you really mean to ask is there a way to export a HMDA LAR in a format that makes the most sense without having to do backflips or purchase third-party tech support or third-party software, that kind of a thing? I got your question wrong. I apologize. So in terms of HMDA functions, yeah, there is obviously HMDA input form on there, Angie. So I apologize for getting your question wrong. If somebody else understands Angie's question better, please go ahead and throw it in the chat. But this is a good example of what's available in native functionality, what's a requirement to really have set up for third-party tech, those kinds of things, or even third-party software. Before we get into that, I'm going to ask a little housekeeping, house cleaning. First of all, for those that have signed up, subscribed to our YouTube channel for Mastering Encompass, thank you. We're trying to grow that because I want to basically bring a lot of our admin tutorials and videos, things like that. I want to bring it out to a much wider audience and grow. So that would be great. And then also separately, if you are interested in the admin videos that we usually have hosted on the Encompass, Mastering Encompass as an admin, check out the admin circle that's here in the community. If that's interesting to you, ask for details. There's no content in there yet because I'm not reshooting until here in the next few days, over the next few weeks. So that's enough of that. Going back to Angie's question on chat here, we're really talking about HMDA. And it's really interesting because when you look at what's available in Encompass, you would think that some of this stuff is like out of the box and it should come already built. What I'm talking about is data flowing from FACTA properly over into HMDA at the right moment. Those kinds of things. So there are lots and lots of business rules, as what's going on here in the chat. And that's the hard part about Encompass, quite honestly, as an administrator, right? You go in and you're asked to administer this platform that is just enormous. And the challenge with this, of course, is, let's see if I can share my screen without stressing out too much here, but the challenge of this is really getting into all of these settings and understanding what's possible, right? And so everything's in here. One of the things that's not stand out, jump in your face, is exactly how to use each of these settings so that you don't need to go out and fetch third-party tech, or you don't need to stress out in your workflow trying to find something. That's where I wanted to kind of drive this conversation. So some of the functionality I'm going to talk about is newer. Some of it actually isn't. And one of the things that isn't newer, and thanks for the segue in Angie and Candace and Amy, but is business rules. And so when we look at our business rules section of Encompass, we're all fairly used to this, right? I mean, we're familiar with field triggers. We're familiar with DDM rules, right? Maybe you're not using them because maybe they're a little intimidating or you're just not really sure how to use them. But business rules are one of the things that you really need to understand have to do with your workflow. And so when you're looking at business rules, it isn't simple enough to say, hey, I need to make sure we're going to use HMDA, Angie, if you don't mind, I'm going to keep using HMDA. So we don't just need to worry about when, getting the data from field A to field B. It's when does the data need to get there? And under what circumstances does it need to get there? And part of the secret of Encompass Native is managing the business rules, and you can kind of see it here in the chat today. So for those that are watching on replay, the chat will be posted in the notes over in mortgage.community. And it is very common within the community to figure out what rules are working best and to share them if you can, if you're allowed to, kind of a thing. So Jolene's offering as someone who's more than willing to share rules. Thank you for that. I also go in and try to help. But I will say this, when it comes to understanding each of these business rules and understanding what they do and what they're intended for, it's very important, very, very important. So one of the things that I want to kind of keep going with that is now we have Workflow Engine, and that's in web version settings. So if you're not used to this yet, again, I totally get it. It's okay. And when you go into web version settings, one of the things that you're managing is Workflow Engine. And these workflow rules currently are only configured to be able to update custom fields. But imagine you're not good at writing custom field calcs because there's not, it's complicated. Sometimes the syntax is throwing you off. One of the things that I want you to be aware of and really dig into is understanding workflow rules and everything that they're able to do. Because if you're not familiar with this, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity. Workflow rules are honestly the future of Encompass, not only Encompass Desktop, but obviously Encompass Web. This ties a lot into the Encompass Partner Connect platform in terms of the service providers. Just to kind of give you a reminder for those of you that aren't on the communication thread, the Encompass Partner Connect must be fully adapted to by service providers by October of 2025. So in English, that means that if they are not fully integrated with EPC by October 2025, you're not going to be able to use them on Encompass. So why is this important? This is important because in the services tab, when you have EPC vendors working in here for you, you're going to notice that there's data permissions. And again, this is one of the secrets of Encompass native functionality. Because of EPC coming on, you have something that you never had access to as an Encompass admin, which is the JSON data traveling back into Encompass. And so if you want to get a sense of what this means that you can actually now see more of the, as an example, the appraisal XML file, because that data is now transmittable by the service provider. So if you work with Regora, as an example, or with Mercury Network, as another example, traditionally, those companies would have had to have created their interface through services management, and they would have had to have negotiated basically with ICE to how that software was going to work. API call had to be available, the destination had to be there, that kind of a thing. It's very intricate and very delicate. But with EPC, you can now have, as a service provider, you now have a clearer path to transmit that data and also to make modifications to how your solution works in a much more rapid manner, so that if you're working with a service provider and they're listening to what you're asking for and they're willing to make changes, that means that you can now get more data into your loan file directly through EPC. Again, check data permissions. But using Workflow Engine, if I can click on the right thing here, using Workflow Engine, you can now not only request that service, but request an update for that service. And then you can also, if that service pulls data in, you can now let Workflow Engine listen for those changes and take action on them while those changes are being updated. So if you work with Optimal Blue as an example right now, you can do a lock request on desktop, and that lock request can update the loan file while the user's still in the loan. And that's if you're using the OB EPC integration. This is a big deal. And it's one of the, again, it's one of the secrets of native Encompass right now, because in the past, you would have had to have built all kinds of third-party tech. And yeah, and we're working away from that. So on that mark, with regards to Workflow Engine, if you haven't tried this already, I want you to hear me loud and clear here. You can automate your initial disclosures through Encompass Desktop right now. Now, you might have thought that that was only available through the web, or maybe you're just not ready for automated disclosures, but successfully in multiple Encompasses, I'm able to automate those initial disclosures. Now, Kim shared on chat something that's very common. She's like, that's frightening. And the idea is the reason why this is an important step for you to be aware of, that you can do this natively right now, is because A, there's third parties out there that actually sell disclosure automation. What they're doing in that is more than just the disclosure part. What they're doing is they're grabbing some information from other sources to make sure that your file is in a present state, in a good place to be disclosed. So this doesn't mean your entire workflow has to be automated for disclosures. Maybe you don't want to automate FHAs because you're afraid of what's in there, or your VA URLs because they can't get it right. But what if you could automate some of your files because you've got DDA rules, because you've got strong milestone completion rules or field data entry rules running? Things like this can make sure that your file is in a state that is disclosable. And I guarantee if you were to let your management team know, and especially your executive team know, that you could make the workflow faster and more reliable and speedy in terms of delivering those disclosures to the borrower, you can actually improve not only your company's experience, but more importantly, your borrower's experience. And so Candace says, we have a new bot doing our disclosures. I spent the last through months putting up stop rules in place prior to disclosure ready. And so I'm guessing disclosure ready is a custom field, Candace, or a milestone maybe. And so either one of those two could work depending on your use case. Custom field, so Candace used the custom field, which is great because when it's a custom field now, I know I can use workflow rules. And I don't know if you're doing that, Candace, but you can use workflow rules to, again, put that status in a place for custom fields to then calculate if the file should be automated for disclosures. So, so that's an important part of the conversation. Look at this, don't be afraid, and don't think that you have to automate all of your disclosures. If you got 25% is maybe where you start, maybe less, but 25% is where you start, you've got to get used to it. And I'm telling you right now, it's not as scary as you think. I will say that if you're not fetching third-party fees from companies that provide that, you're going to need to take that step first, obviously. Because if you've got your workflow where they're going out and asking some third party, some attorney or closing company or something like that for their fees to input in Encompass and then do disclosures, yeah, you're going to need to automate that first. And so Candace asks on chat here, does this workflow work if we're using Blend? The disclosure automation is exclusively for delivering those disclosures through Consumer Connect. Now, if you ask me, does it work with the big POS, because their entire platform is API based, I'm going to get back to you and let you know. We actually had a call, they and I, the big POS, one of their team reps and I met, and we talked about this possibility. Could the big POS actually support the disclosure automation because of how they built their software? We don't know. We're going to find out. But it definitely works with Consumer Connect. So yeah, if you're using Blend or using SimpleNexus or some other site to deliver your disclosures, even big POS right now, as far as we know, it's not going to work for you. So again, doesn't mean it has to be for everybody. There's a company who is looking at this that's using SimpleNexus for some of their company, but they're consumer direct. They're okay to go to Consumer Connect because they're okay with it. And so they can disclose they can make their disclosures automated. Candace asks, our brand new WL division is using Encompass Consumer Connect and eClose. So that's a good opportunity, Candace, for that, if that's what you're doing. That sounds great. Some other things that I want to talk about here that are web-based. And again, these are concepts, but and I call them secrets because not a lot of people know about them yet. But the idea is when you're using Encompass Web, I want you to look at it from two basic fundamental purposes. Not for using it for operations because it's not there yet. But the first thing is for basic pipeline access. So if you've got somebody in your company who's dying to get something on their mobile device so they can check on pipelines, or they can request a lock, or they can see what's estimated to close this month, you can use Encompass Web for that. And the second thing that I want to bring up, and this is especially for salespeople, even if you're using Blend or SimpleNexus or the big POS or whatever else you're using out there, Salesforce, whatever, if you're using something else for that CRM management kind of feel or that POS kind of a feel, you can still leverage opportunities on Encompass Web. And if you show your sales team how it works, provided you can get pricing through there. So I just found out Poly doesn't work on there, which is interesting. I'm not sure what other PPEs don't work. I do know Optimal Blue works. I do know EPPS, aka ICE PPE. That works. And so you can let your sales team actually get in there and drive great conversations with great visual effects to their borrowers, to your borrowers, up to 10 different opportunities. So definitely drill into that. I think that's a big deal, especially for sales teams to go through. And if it's not just sales teams for you, think about this. How about how many times you have borrowers who are in the middle of their application process, something changes and they pivot? What about being able to give them different visual options without changing data in the loan file? Now, it's not going to let you run AUS because it's just an opportunity. But the idea is you can create these directly from the loan file so nobody has to retype in information. And you can then, again, understand from a pricing perspective what's possible for that loan and get the borrowers on their way. So hopefully that's helpful for you. I want to come back. To something, but before I do that, I got a question from Stephanie. Stephanie asked, for opportunities, is the OB connection the new EPC connection? No. So really important, Stephanie, thanks for asking. If you're using Optimal Blue, you have Optimal Blue for opportunities. That's a separate EPC. So if you come up to services and you go to services management and you go to add a service and then select the category for product and pricing, you'll see down here, Optimal Blue opportunities. That's what you want to grab. And so you do have Optimal Blue for loan, and it tells you which one is that's a duplicate. I don't know why, but this is the one we want for opportunities. I don't know. Optimal Blue's got to answer that one. I can't answer their own. So hopefully that's helpful for you, Stephanie. Thanks for asking that question. You got it. I want to flip back for a second. Guys, who's using dashboards? Now, I don't know if this is a real secret, but again, it's certainly, I don't find many companies doing this throughout their workflow. And you can see on here, Candace, Jolene, Christine, Kim, Luba, you guys know the secret. Everybody else, I'm telling you right now, you need to get on the bandwagon and you need to leverage dashboards. So here's the rule of thumb I always work with. If you watch your team in workflow and they are flipping back and forth between at least 3 pipeline views, or they've got personal pipeline views that they flip them back and forth, you got to get them on a dashboard. Got to get them on a dashboard. And so if you don't have a good stick to beat them with, kill them with data. Build them a dashboard like what you see on screen right now. Build them a dashboard that shows them everything they want to see. Some of the easy ones that I win with are disclosure teams, underwriting teams, post-closing, sales teams, managers. Who am I missing, gang? Help me out here in the chat here. So Kristen, what am I thinking of? Anybody else in the workflow? So underwriting, yeah, underwriting, processors, post-closing. So I'm glad everybody feels the way I do. I've been talking about dashboards since forever. Christine just did their disclosure team. Did you do 4 or 6, Christine? So with disclosures, I typically do like initials, COCs, separate out the LEs. So you did 5. Great. Yep. HMDA and processing, HMDA and adverse processing groups love them from Sarah. So it's not a secret to them, but if you're not using them, check it out. And ask in the community too. Like if you ever need a screenshot of like what's a good idea for a dashboard, trust me, if you ask, the community will respond. I'm going to get into one last piece here. And if anybody has any questions, please keep them coming. One of the biggest secrets for me of Encompass over the years has been to use Encompass for things other than traditional lending. And so if you're thinking reverse, no. The problem with reverse mortgages is they contain specific calculations for HECMs that are just not outside of HECM software. And so what I want you to think about here is what else can you do with your Encompass platform that's being done in other places of your company. So recently, Mortgage Workflow Partners, we found out a client is using their Scimitar for their HELOCs. Yeah, we're going to move them over into Encompass. We've helped companies that are doing consumer loans. So those are like personal loans or auto loans or pool loans. Get them into Encompass. Business loans, you can get them into Encompass. So the idea is that, and I'm going to speak to your question one second, Angie. So the idea is I want you to think about ways that your company, bank, credit union, whatever, is leveraging other software outside of Encompass. And I encourage you to explore that. And again, leverage the community. If ever I can answer any questions for you, ask. All right, so I'm going to go back to the chat here. And Craig asks, doesn't Encompass have an out-of-the-box database for dashboard for disclosures? Yes, it does. It has a 4-pane out of the box. So if we come over into company view, dashboard view, you guys are staring here. Well, I'm in testing environment, so I think I got the short end of the stick. But yes, Craig, it does. But truthfully, typically it's 4 or 5, like what's been said on chat here. So like initial disclosures, and then your COC for LE, and then your ICD, and then your COC for CD, and then usually one other. I don't know why I just forgot the 5th. So Danielle's asking for some screenshots. She'd love to get some concepts for dashboards. So let's throw that into the community. Angie says, we moved our HELOCs to Encompass and it's been a nightmare. Angie, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm going to ask you one quick question for why it's a nightmare. are you using, is it because of the calculations or because of the workflow or because of the documents? So it's a 3-part choice for you. Let's see. Kim doesn't want me to tell her management. Sorry. Disclosures dashboard with the number 1 I'm looking to start with. Okay, cool. So Danielle's going to work on dashboards. Danielle, your mission is to let us know how you make out, and we'll go from there. So while Angie's typing up the response, I want to finish on that. And again, sometimes it's the simple things, but truthfully, if you go through your company in terms of what your business is doing, it may be outside of mortgage, right? I appreciate that sometimes you get segregated in, you put in your little gray box and you're only doing mortgage and somebody else is doing HELOCs and somebody else is doing business loans or whatever. I just want to let you know that it doesn't need to be that way. Now, if your business is set up, your company, your bank or whatever is set up to where that's just the way it is, whatever. But if Sharon was on here from Westfield Bank, I'm going to, she's one of the ones that was very open. They were very open to switching their consumer loans out of whatever they were using into this, and it saved them about $60,000 in their first year alone. So Angie's response to the HELOC problem was documents at first, it's better, but that's better now. Late charges in different states and some calculations. They pushed us to get them into Encompass in late 2018. I don't think ICE had everything. Oh God. So Angie, yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, if you try to do HELOCs, like before maybe the last 3 years, yeah, I'm sorry. That was probably a horrific thing that you don't want to relive. HELOCs today are well supported in Encompass. The documentation on HELOCs in Encompass is extensive. And the experience that everybody has on them is typically positive. I will say the one thing on HELOCs that is challenging is the actual loan agreements. So if you've got really specific language that you want to have included, and within that language are specific calculations that are different than Encompass does natively, yeah, you're going to have trouble. So yeah, and Kim kind of lays that out right here in the chat. She's like, yeah, they had some trouble too, but now Kim wants to untangle whatever was done and rebuild with standard fields and calcs. And that's what I'm talking about. In the past, it's kind of like doing buy downs. When I help companies get back into buy downs back 2 years ago, the standard fields weren't there and the calcs were kind of broken, especially in the interim servicing tool. So I created a whole bunch of custom stuff only to have ICE come and fix it 6 months later, which is great because that helps us in the future. But there are moments. And so Angie just ends, we are using a custom document for the HELOC agreement. Again, Angie, you went like, I feel bad for you. Angie got the worst of the worst of the worst. Back in 2018 with custom print forms, with custom calcs. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was so bad. But good news is, Angie, the next time you do it, it won't be that bad. I promise. It won't be. As long as you don't use custom docs or custom calcs, you'll be fine. All right, gang. It's about that time. You're too old for this. Hey, listen, that's why I'm trying to divest my information because yeah, I'm feeling too old for this too. It's a lot. If you ever have any questions about what we talked about today, find me on the community. Be glad to open a chat, whatever. And again, if there's anything I can ever do to help you learn more about seriously being a better Encompass admin or knowledge share, just ask on the community. Like it's a very open spot. If you don't have an account, if you're listening to this on podcast or someplace else, just sign up. It's free. Everybody can join. I don't care where you work. I don't care who you work for. If you want to learn more about Encompass, great. Let's talk. That's my message. Any final questions before we break? You guys good? You feeling good? Check out 24.2. Check out my first impressions. Let me know what you think. I'd love to see what your first impressions are and hear what they are. And I guess that's all I got. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being the best part of the community. And I appreciate you doing these with me. You guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you. Take care. Bye-bye.